Today we're going to be talking about a conspiracy that runs deep, a conspiracy that is behind World War II, 9/11, and why people see UFOs. It's an inside job, inside of our own minds. The real enemy behind all these things is our own stupidity. No matter how smart we are, our own stupidity always finds a way of outsmarting us. And we're going to be talking about our cognitive biases. This is Data Wars, and I'm Shane Hunter.
Did Shane Hunter in fact set up Antifa in Australia?
It's a fucking word!
So one of our cognitive biases is the bandwagon effect. Our brains are more likely to believe something based on how many people agree with it. Isn't that right, David?
That's absolutely correct, Shane. Isn't that right, Adam?
That's absolutely right, Dave. What do you think, Bo?
The bandwagon effect is incredibly dangerous. It partly explains why people conform to cults and totalitarian societies and genocides. I really despise the bandwagon effect. What do you think, David?
I've always hated it. What do you think, Adam?
It's terrible. It leads to atrocity. What about you, Bo?
We're going to be talking about the narrative bias. The idea that we explain the world through a story, and then we use this grand story we have to explain things. For example, if you believe that you're a virtuous and moral person, you're going to explain your actions through that. For example, I caught myself the other day boasting to my friend how I've never paid for sex. But upon reflection, the only reason I've never paid for sex is because I've never had the disposable income to be able to afford it. But I've got this grand narrative that I'm like really moral and virtuous, so that's how I explain my actions. And you see people do this all the time. For example, a lot of the people who are into polyamory, the idea of having multiple sexual partners at the same time, their reasons for doing it are always really noble and virtuous. They're always like, you know, monogamy is a prison, and I'm about freeing people from the love prison. Freedom, hooray, woo! They're never like, I'm just down to fuck as many people as possible. You know, but maybe I'm the cynical one. Maybe it is possible to love more than one person. I certainly know it's possible to hate more than one person. I'm polycontemptuous. I hate a lot of people at the same time. So a famous case study in the narrative bias was when psychologists got 3 different people who were convinced that they were the second coming of Jesus Christ. They put them all in the same psych ward because they believed that by these Jesuses seeing other people who had the same delusions that they had, that they would snap out of their own self-delusion. At least that was the psychologists' reasons for doing it. I'm pretty sure that the psychologists themselves were under the narrative bias and they were just doing it for the lols. These different Jesuses were never able to see how they were self-deluded, but they were able to explain how the other Jesuses were crazy. All 3 of them didn't snap out of it. And what happens with the narrative bias is we see information as proof for our narratives. So for the Jesuses, they would have seen the disbelief and the persecution as evidence that they were Jesus. They're like, see, Jesus wasn't believed in his time. I'm not believed now. You know, Jesus was crucified to a cross and had nails put in his hands. I've been crucified to a hospital bed and they were putting needles in my hands. And then I woke up 3 days later. I am Jesus. This is proof, guys. I'm fucking Jesus. The narrative bias, the way we can see other people's self-delusions but not our own, even if it's very similar, is apparent when it comes to people who subscribe to different political ideologies. One political extremist can see why the other kind of political extremist is crazy, but they can't apply that to themselves.
The thing on these Christians, like, they're just brainwashed by their institution. I mean, thinking about this Messiah who's meant to save them, I mean, it's just this ridiculous paradise vision. It's just so hard to believe that anyone would buy into that. Yeah. No, I'm coming to that socialist rally though, man. Like, I just think they've got all the answers. I mean, if only more people read Marx, you know what I'm saying, then the world would be paradise. There'd be no more poverty and suffering. Yeah, no, I'll see you there.
The best way to immunize yourself against a self-narrative bias is to question your own motivations. Don't just go with the first reason why you do things. Question the real reason why you're doing something. Because there's usually never just one motivation. We're always full of internal conflict because life is complicated. Like, you know when you go to a public toilet and you sit down and the toilet seat's warm and you got that mixture of both disgust and gratitude? right? Like you're disgusted that someone else's arse germs are like colonizing your butt cheeks, but you're also like really grateful that the toilet seat's warm because it's a cold night. You know, it's bittersweet like that. Life is bittersweet. Life is a bittersweet toilet seat.